Good morning, guys. Currently at the airport back to Amsterdam after a few days, obviously, here in London at the Alpha Capital office. Super interesting experience to be here with the top 0.1% traders that they have. So a lot of good things going on, and more of this will be explained in the upcoming Tuesday YouTube live session. As from next week onwards, the YouTube live sessions will be back. Now, EURUSD and the other major dollar pairs. EURUSD has pushed strongly in towards the downside after some USD strength after positive NFP numbers. However, then shortly after, obviously retracing or pushing back in towards the upside following the tap in towards this area of demand and the respectation of this current fractal low in line with the current fractal high and market structure. If we look at EURUSD, we can obviously clearly see that we are overall bullish, and as I've been mentioning all week, longs are pretty much the only trade that makes sense. Obviously, there is money to be made on a short position like this. However, you are heavily trading against the trend on both the 4-hour and the daily time frame. Obviously, the daily time frame here has been inside this imbalance candle, and if you refine it back down in towards the 4-hour, you can clearly see that within that overall daily imbalance, there is a 4-hour demand zone with this sub for the buy up, which broke market structure, and the overall 4-hour fractal structure is bullish as well. So myself, I have taken a long position over here. It is currently running risk-free with my stops underneath the lows. It is currently running at around 1.7%, targeting obviously just a 1 to 3 just below the overall swing high. So let's see if this keeps on pushing further in towards the upside. I'll be looking for some further upside opportunities today, but we will need to monitor what the dollar index overall is doing. Now, looking at EURUSD just again from a higher time frame perspective, obviously everything is still bullish. This daily imbalance is being respected. The 4-hour fractal is still bullish, so I cannot justify to take any short positions. Obviously, at some time, I do expect there to be a retracement for EURUSD. Yes, if we look here left, we've obviously taken out this overall swing high to our left, but for me, kind of like the next station for EURUSD would be 1.19753 before seeing the overall significant pullback. Now, let's say, because obviously market conditions can change at any point in time, let's say we do start retracing in towards the downside, then I'll be looking for shorts once the 4-hour fractal breaks. So that 4-hour fractal is this low over here. Once that starts breaking, then I'll start be interested in getting into shorts back down in towards where? In towards that weekly demand zone over here. And then from that weekly demand zone, I'll be interested in getting into potential buys again into 1.19753. But if we then break the weekly fractal low, then I'll be interested in looking for a short position to trade the overall potential deeper correction. For example, back down below this overall, let's say, liquidity low, which is positioned over here to around 1.10. So that's kind of like what I have for EURUSD at the moment. That's kind of like the higher time frame narrative that we're currently trading. And then today we'll have to monitor what happens. Obviously today's USD bank holiday, so not expecting too much. But if we look at the dollar index, we can see that the dollar index is currently still bullish. And that's why I'm being very careful with that EURUSD long. And I prefer to kind of like manage the position to a certain extent. Because look, first of all, here on the dollar index, on the daily time frame, we are obviously bearish. Momentum is in towards the downside. Now, again, a very simple chart, guys. Daily fractal structure is bearish between the current fractal high and the current fractal low. We have the daily imbalance candle, and that is currently pushing the market down lower. However, from a 4-hour perspective, we are still in a pullback phase in the sense that the fractals have been bullish. We can clearly see that this demand was in control. Then after that, this demand zone was in control. And now we have a demand zone over here that is in control. We've just simply tapped into the demand zone this morning, and it could cause an overall push or continuation of the 4-hour fractals further in towards the upside. That's why I would recommend to manage the EURUSD position, and that's why shorts on EURUSD still can make sense to push the market, because the dollar index can still push up higher. Therefore, EURUSD could still push down lower. Okay, so only once, let's say, the dollar index breaks the current fractal low here and breaks market structure, that is then where I'll want to get in on those EURUSD longs, like once again with a higher overall conviction. Because for me, the main reason for looking for those EURUSD longs was because the dollar index was trading at a premium of the overall daily fractal range. Okay, so all the way up over here. So then for me, it just makes sense as it's kind of like the last opportunity for EURUSD to push up higher. Also with EURUSD at the time being fractal bullish and pushing into that 4-hour demand zone. So that's the dollar index. Going into AUDUSD, we can see that AU has been consolidating, not really moving too interesting. Not much to say on this, to be very honest. Overall, daily fractal is still bullish, so longs are still the only trade that makes sense. Obviously, again, we sold off yesterday, but price here is just consolidating, so not really any trades for myself here on AU for now. Moving on into GBPUSD. GU is the more interesting short in my opinion if you are looking for longs on the dollar and shorts on, for example, a GU or an EU. Look, so when it comes to GBPUSD, obviously we've already retraced back down in towards, let's say, the 0.5 fib, and then straight away we see a reaction. However, we can very clearly see here that the 4-hour, or excuse me, the daily fractal is currently bearish, with the fractal high being here, the fractal low being here. From a fractal perspective, we were traced into the 0.5 fib. We have a supply zone which broke the fractal low, so GBPUSD would be the perfect hedge on that EU long position to take in towards the downside to trade potentially back down in towards that daily demand zone. So yeah, this is kind of like a nice short position with your stops above the highs, kind of like targeting like a 1 to 2 risk to reward based on this daily fractal. Because if the dollar index does decide to kind of like bottom out and push up higher, then this could start pushing. Yeah, today is obviously a bank holiday, so it's not the best day to kind of like enter these positions, but it is a position that you can definitely monitor. We're currently seeing a bearish reaction because we're taking out these two equal highs here. But yeah, I would only kind of like look for this fractal break maybe, then a retracement, and then look to get in maybe on that for a short maybe on Monday. And then you could also have like a smaller stop loss and then trade it back down in towards that daily demand zone. So that's kind of like a potential trade for GBPUSD, obviously after taking out that weekly swing high here to our left. Just keep in mind that on the weekly time frame we are still fractal bullish and that we've tapped into the weekly order block. Going into NZDUSD. NZDUSD in itself is retracing now as of this morning, following the fractal structure beautifully. I think we discussed this in yesterday's video. Short position from this supply zone was beautiful. Now NFP pushed it down lower. Some very nice price action overall, and now obviously we're back inside this buy for the sell candle over here, which can again push the market down lower. So monitor what's going to happen here on NU, as the 0.5 fib is obviously still open, and a deeper retracement, as long as the 4-hour fractal structure remains bearish, can still be expected. Then of course we have dollar Swiss, dollar yen, and gold. So dollar yen first of all is pushing back down in line with what's happening on the dollar index. Now dollar yen has been consolidating pretty heavily. The main reason for yesterday's push was obviously the good NFP numbers. Overall, I mean, dollar yen is consolidating. So technical analysis, yeah, I mean, we can conduct it, but there's not a lot to say, at least from a higher time frame, being the 4-hour perspective. I mean, this is very consolidative. We took out this swing high, or this liquidity high over here, which could cause a further downside push. For now, we have equal lows over here as well, so I prefer some further downside, but obviously this could act as an area of demand to push the market up higher. For me, this is not a strong area of demand. If it was strong, it would need to liquidate this low and then push up. Then it would be a strong area of demand, so I would prefer for it to sell off. But dollar yen is not a position that I'll be considering to take at the moment. Then we have dollar Swiss. For dollar Swiss, I'm just looking for further downside, to be very honest. Again, where have we retraced into? We've retraced into a daily imbalance candle positioned over here. The daily time frame overall is fractal bearish. So if you join a fib on the daily fractal structure, you can see that the 0.5 has been hit. Go into the 4-hour time frame, and then you'll be able to see that we've hit 4-hour supply as well. 4-hour fractal structure is bearish as well, with this being the current fractal high, this being the current fractal low. So you have a daily bearish fractal, 4-hour bearish fractal. You tapped into daily supply. So now obviously once the dollar index, let's say, breaks that fractal low and USD Swiss breaks this fractal low, then you'll get some better selling opportunities. Last of all, of course, we have gold. Gold overall, I am bullish on it. I'll be looking for further upside on gold, back up into a new all-time high. From a swing perspective, due to the fact that we've had a major impulse in towards the highs, the correction, and now we're in the impulsive phase again. So I'm just looking after this daily bullish fractal structure shift, this key level of support for the price to continue pushing up higher from a daily perspective, and from a 4-hour perspective. For myself, again, obviously the 4-hour fractal is bearish, but the daily fractal is bullish. And it's all about where the fractals happen. For me, this is just more liquidity grab, taking out the lows over here. And now I want to see gold start to push up higher once again. So that's my outlook for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wish you all a fantastic trip, and speak to you guys very soon inside Discord, link in the description of this video.